All right. Hey, everyone. Good morning still, and thank you for hopping on our webinar. Just to introduce who we've got here on the Payfluence team, my name is Cody, and I'll work with our integrations. I'm actually the director of integrations. We've got Remick on the call.
Hey, I'm Remick.
And we also have Archie Adams on the call. Archie, you want to say hey?
Hey, everybody. I'm our director of client services. Happy to be here today.
Perfect. All right. So, yeah, we're going to be jumping into a lot today. Really excited to talk about reporting. All things reporting in actually something relatively new if you haven't seen it before, predictive people analytics, which is what Archie's going to show us at the end. So we're going to kind of walk through each section of iSolve where you can get reporting from what we call ready reports to diving into My Reports, Report Archive, Report Writer just a little bit. And then, like I said, Archie will finish with PPA at the end. As we're going through this, if you've been on our webinars before, you kind of know, drop your questions in the chat, and we'll kind of attack all of those at the very end of the call. And then, of course, at the end of the call, also, we're going to do a short giveaway to one lucky person on the call. So with that, we're going to jump in, and Remick is going to talk us through what we call our ready reports in iSolve. So let me jump over to iSolve.
Perfect. So we have some reports that I like to call ready reports. They're reports that you don't have to run. They're already there. So the very first report I want to talk about is the employee list. So if you go to employee management and then employee summary, so we come to the employee list right here and we have a quick list of the employees. And I would like to pull this because I just need a list of our employees. So all I'll need to do is first, I'd like to add that hire date column though. So I'm going to click on the column chooser over on the right and then add the hire date because I would like a quick list of the employees with their hire date. So I'm just going to drag and drop that over there and add that in. And so one other thing is I don't really need their pay type. So I'm going to drag and drop that and remove it. So I just want that quick report. And there we go. So now I have a clean list and then I can click the Excel button over on the right. And that exports the list so then I can have a quick list of employees that go straight into Excel. That is the first ready report that you're probably going to see in the system. Right there, we have the list of employees. Next, I'd like to talk about the employee analytics reports. These are some more ready reports. If you go type in the word anniversary, I love to use search the menu, or you can go employee admin tools and then employee analytics anniversaries. Either way is a quick way to get there. And when you get there, you'll have a list of the next anniversaries in the next 7 days for people's hire date. And so you can see right here, we have 2 in the next 7 days. You know, an employee that's been there for 3 years, an employee that's been there for 27 years. So it's a great way to look and to see, you know, when employees hit milestones like 25 years, 50 years, you want to celebrate. And so you have that list right there. This is another screen where you can also change it to all if you want, or just look for the month of November by clicking at the top right there. You have different choices of what you want to look at. And then we also have a column chooser here as well to where you can add a column if you wanted. And right here, there's probably not that many things I'd like to add because it's a great basic report. But if you wanted to know their work location or anything else to add to this, you can drag and drop right onto that report. You could also remove a column if you needed. And then you can click the Excel button and also export that report as well. We also have a birthdays report, which is right under anniversaries on the left side. And this is a great way, again, to celebrate with your employees, change it to a birthday month or all birthdays, and you can, again, use the column chooser and export this to Excel. The last ready report that I want to highlight would be the employee salary or hourly rate list. And so this is a great report to show as of today. I want to know what every hourly employee's hourly rate is and what every salary employee's per pay salary is. And so that report is right there for you. Again, you can add a column chooser, add a column, take away a column, and then Excel this report out. So those are some of the great ready reports that are already there for you that you can just export to Excel whenever you need them.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Remick. So if you see these 2 buttons really anywhere in iSolve, you can create kind of what we're talking about, a ready report. You know, we pointed out just a few, but there's more underneath the employee analytics, you know, depending on what you need. And like Remick said, you just click into it and that information's already there. You're not really building or doing anything else. So next, we're going to jump into really the reporting menu in iSolved. So if you've been here before, you see you've got a lot of options, and we're going to hit just a couple of them. So I should have said this at the beginning. There's a lot with reporting. We could do an hour or more on reporting, so we're going to try and keep it brief. But we want to, first off, just talking about the reporting menu and kind of diving into the little bit deeper section of reporting. Start with the report archive. The report archive, I'm sure most of you know this by now, but it holds all of your payroll reports. So whenever you go to process a payroll, and hopefully you know from any calls that we've done with you that you'll click the payroll preview reports for things like the payroll summary, the register, etc. When you process that payroll, all of those reports for each individual payroll end up here in the report archive. So this is really helpful, going back last week, a month from ago, or however long ago you want to look, you can see for a specific payroll, the summary, the register, and things like that. Another thing, or another couple of reports that are just kind of in here by default, are things like the retirement report, which will show you all of the retirement deductions for a given payroll. There's other ones with labor allocation, depending on what you're doing with that. The only thing to note here is that if you have a report that is a payroll type report, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a second, and you want to see that here in the report archive, we have the option to add that. So if you wanted to add one of these to your report archive that you're constantly referring to every payroll, and you're going to My Reports to pull it, we most likely can schedule it to drop into your report archive. Just let your client service specialist know that, and we can do that. So the report archive, pretty straightforward. Next, we're going to jump down to My Reports. And again, if you've been here before, you know that there are a lot of reports in My Reports that you could choose from. A lot of these are different types of reports. You'll have a report name, and then on the right side, you will see the report type. Just to briefly talk about that, at the top of my list, I have an absence export, and you can tell the report type is a date range, which is pretty self-explanatory. Some of these, as mentioned earlier, are by payroll run, so that when you click to run this report, you don't get a date range, you get a list of all of the payrolls that you've processed, and you can zero in on that information for that given payroll. And then the other kind is really just an as of date. So as of dates really look at, starting today and looking back, what information you want to see. The other thing to know is you're in My Reports, and you're trying to find the specific report that you want. You, of course, have this report category drop-down where you can see we've created a couple different report categories. So let's say I just care about what type of payroll reports. I can click on the report category, click filter, and then it narrows down my list greatly. So I'm only looking at a couple of things. Maybe I wanted to see this deduction register by code, just as an example. The number one report that we refer to when we are talking about My Reports, generally the question is, I'm getting an audit of some kind, and I just need all of my pay data for my employees from 1/1 through today, or some version of that. The number one report that we refer to when we're talking about that is called the Payroll Register Export by Date Range. You don't have to type all of that out. I just kind of wanted to type it, but the Payroll Register Export by Date Range. If there's one report you want to write down after this call, I would recommend this one. This is, of course, a date range report. And this report will, like I said, give you all of employees' pay information from whatever date you put in to whatever date you put in. So, just for example, if we were to run this report, let's say 1/1/2025 through today, almost Halloween. And then from there, you can configure specific options about this report. One thing I want to call out is that you have an employee filter here on this report, where if you start typing an employee's last name, you will see a list of employees' names that match up to that, and it'll automatically filter it down to a single employee. You have that on a couple of different reports where you can already narrow it down by employee. But you got those options, some sorting options, and other things like that. This report, like I said, we really like because it has a lot of options here at the bottom. You can include hours, include employer taxes, etc. Use these checkboxes as you need. And then when you, to run this report, you're actually going to click Generate Report at the top, and that will begin generating the report. This is true for any other reports you see in My Reports. And then lastly, you'll go to My Reports queue, where that report will be there waiting for you. So if we click Generate, it's going to take it a second to generate. And then I'll just go ahead and show you what this report looks like at the end of the day. After you pull it up from the My Reports queue, it'll show all of your employees' information, like I said. And then you'll notice that at the bottom here, we actually have multiple tabs. So the check details will show you, for Chesapeake Bay Retriever, every single check that they had in that date range. Let's just say I wanted to see totals. I can go right here and say, okay, well, this is the total that this employee received in that date range that I put in. And like I said, any of those options that you check, it's going to add a couple of columns here at the end. It's breaking down every earning. So this is a great report with a lot of detail that you can then take and manipulate if you need to from there. So let's exit out of that. We're going to go over here. And just to show you the My Reports queue, you will see, that report, and then you will click View Report on the right to actually pull it at the end of that. Okay, one more thing we wanted to show you while we're here, and that is Report Writer. So Report Writer is something that you can use to help create your own reports. So let's go here to Report Writer. We use this a lot internally if someone needs maybe a specific report, but this is also made for you as a client to be able to create your own basic reports. So the way that you would do this, let me just go ahead and pause and say that there's a lot to Report Writer. There's a lot of pieces that can be pulled in. It's a very powerful tool. And before I really go any further about showing you the basics of setting it up, I just want to point out on the top right-hand side, you've seen this hopefully somewhere in iSolve, that the Help button on the top right has direct links to the page that you're on in iSolved to help guides that relate to that. So we're in Report Writer. This has a lot of Report Writer guides that you can click on. It'll take you to the iSolved University where you can then read a little bit about it. So, let's say you needed to create a specific report writer and you would want to maybe go to this article first, which is the Report Writer Report Types Quick Reference Guide, and it'll show you what I'm going to talk about here in a second. So you're on Report Writer, and I know we already have some custom reports that we've built here, but you would start by clicking Add New, and that would allow you to create a new report. When you do that, like I said, you've got a lot of different report types that you can choose from. This is, again, where people try to make their own, they maybe get a little stuck, is this report type. So let me just go ahead and tell you that date range employee summary is probably the most helpful report type that we use, or payroll employee summary report. If you start there, then you can start pulling pieces of information about your employees. So just to kind of show an example, we created, 2 reports here. So let's say you add your new report, you choose what we said, that date range employee summary report type. Then you just give it a title, and you kind of work your way left to right on this menu here in the bottom. So you go to add columns, and you can see we've already added a couple of columns here. We want to see employee name. We want to see their gross wage. We want to see what that means as far as were they paid salary, or was that bonus dollars or commission. So we've added those columns here. You really just click edit and search the field. And then let's say we want to add an additional field here. Let's say something like department. So we'll just show you how this works. We can search here for department, and then it'll give us a list of what matches in the system. So we just click this department title, click it over here, and now I can see by department what that looks like. There's some additional editing you can do. You can add report filters in here if you wanted to filter something out before you produce the report. But then you can go to preview by company and kind of get a quick preview of this report. Again, it's a date range, so we put in from date and to date. We already pulled this report, so just to kind of show you what this looks like. This is the report, and it pulled, like we said, all of our employees' information. If they had a department, it pulled in that department, and it showed us their gross wage, their salary, their bonus, their commission, their 401k, whatever it is that we wanted to see, it's going to pull that information ahead of time, which is great. Again, just to point back here, there's a lot to Report Writer. We're glad to help you if you have a very specific report, but also just want to show you have the ability to create your own. As mentioned, just to draw attention to it again, this help button is going to be really helpful. And this is in more than just the Report Writer section in iSolve. We've actually created quite a few guides. Remember, if it says what, it is a guide that we've created. Is it Payfluence?
Payfluence, it
Yeah.
starts with.
So if it's something we've created, it says Payfluence up here on this list of reports, or I'm sorry, help guides. But these other ones are iSolve created ones. Archie, with that, I'm going to pass it over to you and let you show us a little bit about PPA.
Thank you, Cody. My screen shared here for you guys. So what you should be seeing momentarily here is what we call our PPA, or Predictive People Analytics. Now, this is a add-on feature and tool. There's a slight cost associated with it to turn this on for your company. But what you're seeing here is a more analytic dashboard view of some of the data. A lot of the reports that Remick and Cody showed relate to payroll. They relate to numbers that have happened at one point in time. Whereas this predictive people analytics tool can really give you a better feel for things about your company. You see kind of on this landing dashboard, we're seeing ethnicity data, we're seeing tenure, termination, and hire data, salaries, ages for our employees. Know that this tool is very customizable. We can build our own graphs and charts here within the platform. A lot of people will use this for KPIs and tracking data for those within their company. And so one of the really strong features about this tool is that it not just shows your data, but it also has some benchmarking that it allows you to do against national industry specific clients, against clients with your own kind of size as far as your client base. If you've got 50 employees or if you've got 300 employees, it'll kind of reference to clients of similar size as well as regional benchmarking as well. So all that to say, a lot of data, a lot of information that's going into helping these tools function and work the way they do, not just using your data, but also using external data to help kind of benchmark and predict things that may be able to help your company. And so what I want to show you here is a couple of features within this. If you want more information on this, please let us know. We can do a full dive demo with you at some time to show you all the features of the tool. But I'm going to click here into this hires and termination graphic. So it's showing me over the last 12 months how many hires we've had, how many terminations we've had, but you'll notice that there is this predictive piece to it. And what this allows me to do is to take my data as well as some of the benchmark data that has been there, and it will allow me to project, here in my last 6 months from April to September, what might the next 6 months look like based off of my historical data, based off trends in the industry, those types of things. We're looking at somewhere between 30 to 40 new hires and terminations for each of the next 6 months, which may be good, it may be bad, but a good bit of turnover there. And your CFO, your CEO may come to you and say, how do we quell that? How do we reduce our turnover within the company? One of the things that we can do here is we can do some modeling and say, okay, what would happen if we maybe increase the average benefit cost? So if we start contributing more to 401k match, if we start paying more for our employee benefits, what might that do? And I'm gonna put in a pretty extreme number here so that you can really visibly see these graphs change. But if we increase that by 100% over the next 6 months, you'll notice that our terminations reduced dramatically. And we went from 30 to 40 terminations to under 20 in each of those months kind of moving forward. And obviously if our terminations reduce, we're not gonna have to hire as many employees as well. So there's a lot of predictive ability to this and ability to model within the tool to help kind of analyze what might do things for your business and how you could apply that to help strengthen your employee base, but also strengthen your company. I'll also show you some other things that this can do here within the system. Obviously knowing the average salary across your company is important. We're at a little short of $68,000 here within this company, but maybe I want to analyze what does it look like from department to department or by categories of employees. I can dive into the analytics of this. And instead of just looking at my totals, I can look at something like gender, ethnicity, departments, division, job level, anything of that nature. I'll throw departments on here just to kind of show you really quickly what that might look like. So now instead of having one single bar for each of those months, I now get a separate bar for each division within our company. And I can see kind of rolling over time what's happening with those trends. If I want to look at just a specific one, I can isolate those, but I can also see a big picture of what's happening within my company. Now these dashboards are fully customizable. You can create your own. You see there's a search the system using native language. There's a little AI tool built into this that you can go in and enter some key phrases and say, I want to look at a graph of my employee salaries by shift. And what the system will do is it'll actually kind of produce a graph there for you of average salary by shift, if that data is part of your subset of information within the system. We can also change, our date ranges that we're looking at. If we want to look back in time, we can, look at our last 12 months. We can look at the last 3 calendar years, do custom date ranges within this. We can also filter it down to just look at specific groups. So if I want to look at just just my employees within is it Iowa, I can, drop in here and I will update my information and show you just for that subset of employees what that looks like within my company. So a lot of ways to, measure and visually, gauge where you're at as a company, where your employees are, and how they're doing. What I really like about this too, for those of you who are sitting in HR or a payroll seat, let's say that your CEO or CFO wants some of the information from these graphs, but doesn't want to have to get into the weeds of, going to pull this, going to have a login, those types of things. It's really easy to email these out or download them and, post them into a PowerPoint presentation that you're going to do for your board. So it's easy to pull the information out of here to share with others as well, if and when that's needed. You do have some pre-built metric libraries as well. So if you, are using, the talent management with the ATS system, some of that data pulls in here. A lot of you use time and attendance within our system. It's easy to kind of come in here and look at things like time off, how much of that has been spent on vacation versus sick versus floating holiday, what shifts are your employees working, those types of things. So a lot of pre-built data in here as well. So you're not having to go in and create everything from scratch. But again, you have the ability to do a lot of creation here within the tool as well, to make it do exactly what you're looking for, both in looking at current data, but also future data. So a lot of information there, pretty condensed version of that. So if you do have further questions, want to see a full demo of this software, please let us know. We'd be happy to do that, talk about costs with you as well in the future. So I'll turn it back over to Cody.
Cool. Yeah, thank you, Archie. So like Archie said, the one thing I forgot to mention there really is just that that is an add-on. It is an additional service for the PPA because it is a really powerful reporting tool with some AI capabilities. So if it is something that you think would be beneficial for your company, please let us know. Like Archie said, we can do a demo and obviously talk about the pricing aspect of that.
Yeah. And then the things that Cody and I talked about should already be included for all of you. But if you don't see something, just reach out to your CSR with something that Cody and I said, and we can turn it on, or even demo further if you're like very interested in report writing and want to know more about that. Just reach out to your CSR about that. So last but not least, we would like to do the most important part of the webinar, the giveaway.